Let's bring BJ Bass on our show. It's the second time having BJ on. He covers the NBA. BJ, welcome to the Artie Clear Show. A little late, but we're still here with you. How you doing?
Hey, Artie, no problem. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Happy New Year to you and your loved ones.
Thank you. To you, too.
Thank you. Let's talk some NBA basketball here for about 15 minutes. We have BJ Bass. And BJ, before we talk some basketball, tell them where they can get a hold of you and what you do real quick, and then we'll get that out of the way and we'll talk some baskets.
Sure. Real quick, I'm NBA and FIBA agent. Work out in New York City. We talked last time about our affiliation with Basketball City here in New York. Guys can check me at on Twitter at BJBass2 and online at RBA Sports, www.rbasports.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now tell us about the facility real quick, that indoor basketball place you got there with 9 basketball courts, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, unfortunately, it took a hit with Hurricane Sandy.
Oh, sorry,
yeah, it was under like 8 feet of water, but it's close. They're going to be reopening hopefully January 7th, and when we get offline, I can send you a picture of it. It's really incredible what a
shame
what happens to the basketball floor once the water hits it. But fortunately, there's no structural damage, and so once they redo the flooring, we're going to be back in there.
Good, because that's a beautiful facility. Let's talk the NBA. Let's talk the Clippers right now, the hottest team in basketball, winning 15 in a row. They play Utah tonight. I want to hear your opinion on the Clippers and how good is the Clippers really? Are they as good as their record? Are they better than the record? Is this the team that's going to go all the way? What's your opinion on the Clippers?
Well, first of all, the interim GM, Gary Sachs, is a buddy of mine, and they need to go ahead and remove that interim tag because, when Neil O'Shea left, this summer, Gary is, kind of running things, and, he set them up. I mean, they're deep. They got good experience with bringing in Crawford and Lamar Odom. So they're deep off the bench. Obviously they're the hottest team in the league and the most fun to watch. In fact, you know what they kind of remind me of is, years ago when the Nets, were playing, when Jason Kidd first got to the Nets. And, he was running around and throwing lobs to Kenyon Martin and Richard Jefferson and those guys. I mean, they were blowing teams out for a while there. The team that got to the finals
2 years in a row.
Yeah, they kind of remind me of that team, but they're probably more talented than that team. And so they're great to watch. I think the question for them is the free throw shooting. The big guy, Jordan and then Blake. You got to be careful if they're going to get a lot of their scoring down low, deep in the playoffs. Free throws will probably become an issue. And then just overall playoff experience. I mean, you love the point guard, and, he's great. But, the rest of the guys, I mean, beside Lamar, you look up and down, and you don't have a ton of playoff experience. So, I think they have the talent, certainly, to get by the Oklahoma Cities and Memphis and the Lakers are just kind of getting it together. They do. I think the question is, will they get there? But I tell you something, if they do, that'd be a really exciting finals. That's for sure.
I'm sure Billy Crystal would love that, as his name's getting much more times now than it ever has been mentioned in life, no matter what movie he's in, as he's trying to steal the microphone out of Ralph Lawler's hands out in L.A. Every night he's sitting right next to the playoff, not the playoff, but the broadcast guys, and getting himself on TV, and maybe he deserves it. He's been a loyal fan for the Clippers for a lot of years, and right now they're playing great. What about the Bobcats losing 16 games in a row? Avery Johnson, he's 11-11. He gets fired from the Brooklyn Nets. The coach out in Charlotte, he's still hanging around after a 16-game losing streak. What's wrong with that team? Are they that they have no talent out there at all?
Well, you know what? Yeah, I mean, they won a few games early, which
they were 7-5 after the 6. Now they lost 16 in a row after that.
Right. And they bring in a college coach, Dunlap, and he was actually at St. John's, so I knew him a little bit last year, and he was doing okay. And look, I know those guys work really hard. I mean, I tell you, one guy, you probably remember Dickie Simpkins.
Sure enough.
You know, played at Providence.
Yes.
He played for the Bulls, and you know he's a real good pro. And you know he's one of their scouts. And I mean, you see this guy all over the place. And so, you know, these guys work, and just sometimes you pick these players and it doesn't work out. You know, and it happens to a lot of different organizations. It's not for a lack of trying, but sometimes, you know, you bring some guys in and maybe they don't, you know, live up to the expectation, or you put some guys together and they don't click with chemistry or whatever, you know, whatever the case. And look, it's very hard. I mean, you have a team and an organization that's not used to winning, and
losing and
you know,
winning
it's
is
hard
contagious.
to turn these things around.
You can be losing is
is. I mean,
contagious and winning is contagious. And right now, Charlotte, who's trying to build their team around Kemba Walker, and I've seen the kid play, by the way, and he's not a bad ball player, but I can't build my team around a guy who's 6 foot tall. I'm just not going to do that. And any basketball team can't, unless you got Steve Nash or Chris Paul or Darren Williams, someone like that. But it's not Kemba Walker that I'm going to build my team around. And the draft picks, the Adam Morrisons, the Ellingtons, the rest of the draft picks that they've drafted, just not have worked out for Charlotte. Same thing goes for Detroit. There's a team that can't believe how fast they faded into being a really bad basketball team overnight. It's just like the transition from being good to worse was almost instant for Detroit. I watched them play. They get blown out every single game. They're getting blown out. The Wizards get blown out every single game. There's so many bad teams in the NBA. It's ridiculous after a while to watch some of these teams play. It's hard to watch it. It's hard to watch the Sacramento Kings lose every single night almost.
It is, and you know what? The issue there, you know, when Detroit was good, it was all vets. You know, Chauncey and Rashid and Ben Wallace and Rip and that team, and he, you know, they had Tayshaun, who was young, but you know, he was incredibly versatile, and he played defense and guarded a bunch of positions. But they were a veteran team, and you know, sometimes it takes that you know, level of experience at the end of games, at the end of playoff games. I mean, you've been there, done that, and it makes all the difference in the world. And you know, we mentioned the guy, just kind of segueing back a little bit. You know, I mentioned Jason Kidd. I mean, I think, and obviously I'm here in New York, so I watch a lot of the Knicks. But you know, everybody talks obviously about Tyson, and believe me, I love what he brings. And we talked last time. I'm a big you know, rim protecting guy, and I love what he's done here. And obviously got Melo and J.R. Smith, but Jason Kidd, you know, even though his numbers aren't huge, you look at him at the end of games with his defense and his deflections and his decision making, and I mean, to me, if he goes down, I think the Knicks are not where they are right now. So
Felton's hurt.
You know,
also,
again, it gets back to experience.
Felton's hurt for that team. Carmelo Anthony's hurt for that team right now. Tyson Chandler, an ex-Bobcat, by the way. Charlotte had him at one time with Tyrese Thomas. Is playing as good as he's ever played in life. He's finally injury-free, Tyson Chandler, who's playing really great basketball for the Knicks. They signed to Rasheed Wallace, who has plenty of experience coming off the bench, give you a good 8-12 minutes out there of solid defensive play, hit a jumper here and there for you, but you know he's a pretty solid ball player. Jason Kidd actually controls at the end of the game is not a liability. It's a good thing because he's a real good point guard. Him and Felton can be playing at the same time on the court, and he can play either position, Jason Kidd. He leads the league in three-point shooting, even though he's not taking a lot of them, but he's at 50%, and it's the best he's ever shot in his career. And if you can get 50% out of anybody shooting a three-pointer, boy, that's like shooting 66.7% at that point.
Well, I mean, and then you think back. I mean, I remember watching Jason Kidd at Cal with Lamont Murray in that backcourt, and that was one of the best. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, that was a great time in, you know, college basketball. Yeah, UNLV was, you know, around that time was like, you know, watching the NBA and you know, in college, and then you had teams like Jason Kidd but this is a guy that, I mean, he wouldn't shoot anything. I mean, he was just an assist machine, and to see the way that he's transformed his game, you know, to a perimeter-oriented, you know, sort of secondary playmaker, and the way he makes threes now, and when he makes them, you know, at the end of games and end of shot clock situations. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. You know, so that's, to me, you talk about a lot of these teams that are, consistently losing, and they lack that experience and that pedigree.
That's certainly true. Now, the job at the Brooklyn Nets is open. Now, P.J. Colombo, he's the coach for now, who's had some head coaching experience with the Portland Trail Blazers, and has had some really good teams out in Portland, by the way. And, of course, he was the guy who was getting choked by Latrell Sprewell. I don't think he's an interim coach. I think he can be the coach out there. And I know every time a coaching job is offered, especially out in Brooklyn, here comes Phil Jackson. The name of Phil Jackson, Brooklyn, New York, the Knicks, Brooklyn, Jackson. Could have had the L.A. job. Thought 1 minute too long than he should have thought. They give it to D'Antonio, which I think is a bad hire, by the way. Does Phil Jackson come back and be the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets? I think it's a great fit for Jackson. He won't win a championship right away with them, but does he make them a better team? And is he the guy for the job?
Well, I'll give you two things there. One is I think the owner will probably give him a little piece of the team, and he'll pay him whatever he wants. And, and I think he'll let him, shop for some of the groceries, as the great Bill Parcells would say. So I think he's going to get control. I think he's going to get a little piece of ownership. I think he's going to get the money he wants. And then I also think two things, and I'm speculating. I can't get inside Phil's head, but to me, it's like everybody. He's definitely got an ego, and everybody in this business does. So I'm not speaking out of school, but you have to have a little bit to be good. And I think he would love that spot because he could really, stick it to the Knicks, who didn't make a call for him.
Stick it to the Lakers.
Who I would, and stick it to the Lakers, and the team is right now the arrow is down. So if he comes in and he improves the team this year, then he looks good. And then if they make a move or two in the summer, all of a sudden, he's got some pieces there. So. I don't listen. I don't have any inside knowledge. I talked to a couple of, media folks around the team, and nobody has anything concrete. But, my suspicion is that that's real, and the owner will probably sit down with him at some point, and, we'll see. But I won't be shocked if he does something. Because
if he does go to the Brooklyn Nets and he does make him a winning organization, that just even strokes his ego a little more than it is as high as it is right now. Anyway, he's well respected. He'll get the respect of Darren Williams. That's what they really need, because Darren Williams, I believe, had some way of saying goodbye to Avery Johnson as he got Jerry Sloan fired out of Utah. I believe that he's part of the equation why Avery Johnson got fired also from the Brooklyn Nets. And Darren Williams, to me, is just a basketball player, and he's uncontrollable by any coach. If Phil Jackson comes to Brooklyn, he'll be able to put Darren Williams in his place and make him play some basketball and have him shut up and just be a ball player and don't worry about the locker room and leadership and everything else. Jackson will take care of all that with Darren Williams, who needs to be put in his spot.
Yeah, look, obviously there was some disconnect there. I remember watching Avery. Avery, much like my guy Speedy Claxton. They were big pieces for the Spurs the couple times they won. Guys would double down on the bigs, and Avery, if you remember,
set a record. Avery
he
Johnson.
had to make a couple of big jumpers in the finals, and it was the same thing with Speedy. Speedy, had a big role in them winning, and but look, Avery doesn't have the resume that Phil has. It goes without saying. So. This guy comes in there, and you're right. They have to listen to him, and if they're serious about winning a championship, they're going to do everything that he tells them.
Avery Johnson had a record in the NBA. It raised his scoring average 7 years in a row in the NBA, never done before. The man won a championship out in Dallas. I think he was not treated fairly in Brooklyn, but they want to win, and I know that Darren Williams, and I don't have any source saying this. I'm saying it myself, and I'm standing on this by myself. But I guarantee you, if I'm a fly on the wall, that Darren Williams had something to do with Avery Johnson getting fired. The man was just coach of the month in November, and he's out in December. Something really wrong is going down there. I know that he's on a losing streak. They started out hot. They're not so hot right now. They're 500. But I can guarantee you, something happened, and Darren Williams is behind whatever happened down there. He's part of the firing. Maybe not all the firing, but he's part of it. BJ, I got to let you go. We're up against the hour. That's BJ Bass. If they want to get a hold of you, BJ, give out your information one more time, pal.
On Twitter, at BJ Bass 2, the number 2. Thanks, Artie. Have a great New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year, and thank you so much for joining us here on the Artie Clear Show on Wi-Fi 14.6.